Hello and welcome to Cricbuzz Chatter on what's been a very intriguing, engaging, but a topsy-turvy day as well. The team score 445, you will say that team was on top. But guess what? At the end of today's play, I got the feeling England were on top. To discuss this and a lot more, we have the esteemed presence of one Mr. Michael Vaughan from Cheshire. Hello, Michael.
Yeah, evening, DK. That was a special innings. I think inside matches, DK, you've seen a lot of cricket in India, and you've played in a lot of games of cricket in India and in Indian conditions. I think the Ollie Pope 100 and the Ben Duckett 100 for an overseas player to go and play in that fashion against a quality Indian attack, they're up there with the best 200s that I've seen from an England perspective, and I'm pretty sure from an overseas playing perspective, you won't see many better hundreds than what we've seen from Ben today.
Interestingly, day two started very similarly to day one, where there were a couple of early wickets that fell, and then India threw some punches back. The last three wickets giving them more than 100 runs, and they took the score slowly but steadily, 445. But when England came back to bat, it was a Ben Duckett show, like you just said, Michael. It was just raining boundaries from his bat. It was outstanding to watch, and they finished the day with just 238 behind. And I just feel like saying just is a wrong word to use generally for 238, but it feels that way to see England bat, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Duckett's innings is very, very special. He's hard to bowl to because he pretty much hits it 360 degrees. And when the spinners come on, the best ball that a spinner bowls is pitching about off stump, probably hitting the top of off stump when it goes past the bat. And he sweeps those balls. He doesn't just sweep them, in one area. He can go fine. He can go in front of square on the onside. He can go in behind square on the offside. He then gets to switch it and goes over cover as well. So he's a very, very difficult player to keep quiet. But I have to say, I was staggered that Ashwin didn't open the bowling, and I was staggered that it took England to be 76 for no wicket before Ashwin came into the attack. When you think that Duckett's had problems against Ashwin all series, and Duckett was on 50 odd before he came out to bowl. As a player, that when you're on 50, you're confident whoever's going to be bowling to you. So I thought Rohit switched off. I didn't think the captaincy side of Rohit's kind of maneuver in the field was sharp enough. I thought he was just too reactive. I'm amazed that they haven't bowled any balls over the wicket into the rough to Duckett to sweep to. It's all been pitching. I call it pitching on the posh bit where there's no rough created as yet. And it was a wonderful innings, but he's dangerous because he's a boundary hitter. He never stops. Even in the back end of the day, he was continuously trying to hit the boundaries. That reverse sweep for six off Jadeja was incredible. Joe Root had just gone out there. So India have to find a way. I don't think you can keep him quiet. I don't think he's the kind of player that you can keep quiet and bowl too many dots to. You've got to find a way of making it more difficult for him to play those sweep shots. And my advice would be you've got to try and get the ball to land in the rough zones, as they did to Zach Crawley. So tactically, I don't think India were quite on it, but that was a very special innings, DK.
Oh, yes. For a start, it was the fastest 100 by an Englishman in India. It goes to show that he just dominated that innings. Just watching it from a close, you can just see at times he was playing the field and at times he was playing ball merit. The best part about Duckett's batting has been it's been very hard for Rohit Sharma or the bowler to think of having anybody close in, which is where you get most of the wickets. Generally, you're used to batters defending and getting the LBWs or bowls, but that has literally gone out of the picture. He almost plays a sweep to every part of the ground, and that's put immense pressure. The beauty over a period of time when you play in India is they're used to batters playing sweeps. Now, what Duckett has done is play reverse sweep, but play reverse sweep both ways. I mean, he can play the reverse sweep fine between the slip and the point if you want him to, but also he can smash it square in front of square, and that makes it really hard for the bowler to adjust to. And that has been the phenomenal part. The fact that he's not the tallest man, he gets really low, his hands get low, and he gets into great positions. And not many people can switch it consistently for six, and he's been able to do that. Shows his low center of gravity that he's able to attain when he bats is actually helping him get under the ball and smack it to the boundary. It's quite a sight to watch him play. And his ideology to playing fast bowling as well. He literally leaves no ball, wants to play a shorter ball, and he's done it so well. It was quite the sight to watch him dominate India. It's hard sometimes. I understand completely what Rohit Sharma is trying to do, stop the boundaries. But this man, when he's on song, is actually quite hard to stop because of the areas he's able to access. Now, moving on to Indian batting, there was a debutant who batted today. Because of the couple of early wickets that fell, Jadeja fell soon after Kuldeep, who was taken caught behind of Jimmy Anderson, and then Jadeja fell soon after. Good bowling, good start to the bowling, in fact, because Joe Root was given the ball just to do that, and he ended up getting Jadeja. But then Dhruv Jurel, and as always, Ashwin being the man in prices, they had a good partnership of 77. And that was very vital to India's cause. And it was good to see Jurel, who batted very conventionally, if I may say so. How did you like the first look of Dhruv Jurel, Michael?
Yeah, I thought he looked a class player. I mean, he looked very controlled. You always look to the temperament and the character of a debutant. I thought, yesterday we saw Sarfaraz Khan go out there, looked absolutely made for Test match cricket, and I thought Jurel did a really good job with the bat at a time where India were just starting to flap a bit, and obviously those two early wickets that England desperately needed just got the momentum. It's been a game where the momentum's been shifting either way. The early wickets for England yesterday, and the big partnership, then more wickets, and then this morning 2 early wickets, and then. No surprise that Ashwin and Jurel got a partnership together. But yeah, he looks a class. I thought he looked pretty good behind the stumps as well. You know more about keeping than I do, but he looked quite handy. He looks like he could be a player for India for quite a minute. He's just getting into this Indian side on a regular basis. But, I think in Sarfaraz and Jurel, India have certainly found a couple of players.
Oh, very true. I completely agree with you. I really like the look of what Jurel brought to the table in terms of how side on he got to the fast bowlers. He dealt with some sharp bowling from Mark Wood, and most of it being aimed at his throat. I thought he got into good positions, didn't give it away at any point. But for the spinners, I thought he could have played a few more shots. He seems to sit on it and wait for the bad ball, and I feel in time he learned to put pressure back on the spinner as well. But overall, for a debutant playing for the first, playing his first innings, in fact, it was an innings of temperament where he showed maturity, didn't get too flustered by what was happening around him, and stitched a real good partnership. And the most important thing, the tail wagged for India, which is something India has been good at doing, in India especially. 114 runs for the last 3 wickets. Jasprit Bumrah coming through at the end and playing some nice little shots. And that always puts a smile on back in the dressing room when your number 10 or number 11 is able to get boundaries at will. Now, England, at that point of time, Michael, dropped 3 catches, didn't go for a couple of DRS calls. Do you think that's going to be a bit costly and hurt them at some point of time in this test match?
Oh, we'll have to wait and see. The one thing I say about this England side, DK, I think, past England, I call it England's greatest hits came out in the morning session. There was drop catches, obviously the non-reviews yesterday, just a little bit of chaos out there. And when I've seen that before in the past, it goes into the batting and they suddenly lose 2 or 3 early wickets because it's all become a bit chaotic. This England side are different. They've just got, particularly when they go out to bat, this opening partnership now of Crawley and Duckett, they're doing it on a regular basis. They're going out there, and before you know it, England are 50 for naught inside 7 or 8 overs, and the whole momentum has switched back towards England. And that's just testimony to the way that they can play, the skill levels that they have. They're up against Bumrah, one of the world greats, and they played Bumrah really well with the new balls. Siraj is always a threat. They played him nicely. And then they went after spin straight away. I mean, again, it was just remarkable that Ashwin didn't bowl sooner and put these opening pair under a little bit more pressure. And this is what I say, when you play against the Baz bowlers, I think a lot of teams that play against this England side try and play normal test match cricket. They try and play what's worked for them. And I think India are trying to play that kind of waiting game, particularly with the bat in hand. They just wait and wait. They don't sweep. So Ben Stokes has all his fielders in front of the square. He doesn't feel like he's going to get hurt. And then with the ball in hand, I think England now are just kind of sitting in. And when they go out with the bat, if you don't think outside the box as a captain, as a team, if you think you're just going to get away with bowling conventionally, I don't think you've done your homework well enough to know that against this England side, you've got to start, bowling down the leg side now and again, throwing it out wide of the off stump. If you just try and bowl your best ball's disappearing. If it's swinging and seaming, absolutely. But on a pitch like we saw today, where the ball wasn't doing a great deal, you've just got to have that thought process of thinking outside the box, creating funky fields. The coaching manual of where the fielders should be, you rip it up when you play against England. As Ben Stokes rips it up when he's out in the middle, he's always putting fielders in areas where, in the coaching manual, some of the positions aren't even in the book because Ben's creating new positions. And I think that's what Rohit has to do tomorrow. I think he has to come out with a little bit more of an out-of-the-box kind of mentality of how to play against, particularly Ben Duckett, because if he continues like he did today and just expects Ben to hit one in the air, there's a chance that he might not. And if he bats a session, he'll knock off another 80 quickly. And before you know it, England bat the day tomorrow. England could quite well have a lead, but there's still a long way to go. And I've just done a podcast here in the UK, and we're all praising England. It's great. And then you kind of look at the scorecard and you go, oh, but wait a minute, there's still 238 runs behind. There's a long way to go in this test match. And with Ashwin in particular, he's going to have a big say over the remaining 3 days.
Michael, as you said, I'm just thinking about baseball and that word that's been used so much, and it's always been in question. First, they asked whether they could do it in South Africa. Then they asked, is it possible in New Zealand? Then they asked, is it in Pakistan? These guys have constantly, pushed the bar and kept doing it. Sometimes I feel it's spoken a lot about, but interestingly, the results of the series haven't, really said that they've dominated the series, because barring Pakistan, a lot of places they've drawn the series, but it's just so good to watch, and hence the world has embraced it. And as I see what England are doing, I feel a lot of visiting teams that are going to come to India are going to take note of this and figure out if they have the skill sets to play the sweeps and the reverse sweeps, can they also follow this as a method to put the Indian spinners under pressure? Because at this point of time, as you watch this test match unfold, you will definitely say the Indian bowlers are feeling the heat. There is no doubt about that. There's not too many fields that they're able to set, because when they set unconventional fields for the sweep, these guys are hitting it straight. And if they go the other way, they're obviously very good with the horizontal batted shot. So it is quite interesting to look at and how baseball is approaching Test cricket. But the highlight of the day today was one man, Ashwin, picked up his 500th wicket today, and we from the team of Cricbuzz has just paid a small little tribute to the man. What moving pictures those were. I mean, there's not too much that you cannot say about the man, his attitude, literally a scientist when it comes to off spin. And Michael, the way he picked up just the one wicket that he got when India needed it most, bowling into the rough to Zach Crawley. Your thoughts on Ashwin?
Oh, I think Shane Warne, Muralitharan are the two spinners that stand out, in the era that we've been and following the game. And I think Ashwin is the next. I think he's the professor, the scientist. His longevity to get 500 wickets, 5 test centuries to go with the wickets as well. So he's not just the bowler, he's the package. He's right up there. I think his record overseas will be something that, maybe he'll try and improve in the next year or so. But I just think he's a wonderful bowler. He's got everything. He's got he's got the flight, he's got the Karoon ball, he's got the mystery, he's got that arm ball that fires into the left-hander. And that's why I think over the next 3 days, I keep speaking to people in the UK, and we're all really praising England. They've been fantastic today, and they're right on the front foot. And I think you're right, the momentum is with England at this stage. But then in the back of my mind, I'm going, India 238 runs in front. There's 3 days to go. This pitch will start more and more and more. And they've got Ashwin with 500 wickets. And surely over the next 3 days, he'll have some kind of say. And that's why Duckett's innings today was so special, because he's done it against a great of the game. And, I really put him in that same kind of echelons of conversation, like a Murali, like a Shane Warne. And I think then next is Ashwin. And that's in kind of the list of wickets they've got in Test match cricket, but also the quality as well. I think he is a wonderful, wonderful bowler. And that's across all the formats as well. I just think he's just got that know-how and that scientific mind that he can work out situations.
when I think about Ashwin, I always go back to the first time I met him. His dad coming in a scooter to those practice sessions. I vividly remember in Bangalore when I met him, he was playing under 16 Asia Cup. And at that stage, he was actually a one trick pony. He could bowl fast and flat outside the off stump. He'd put three men for the cut. And because at under 16 level, you don't have the strength, all they could muster up was just play the cut shot. And more often than not, it'll go to one of those three fielders. They'll pick the ball up, give it back to him. In a 10-over spell, he'd be anywhere between 15 to 25, consistently pick up one wicket at max. So basically, all I'm trying to say here is for a man who actually couldn't even turn the ball and all that was expected was to bowl flat and fast, to go on to have so many variations over a period of time and beat people in the air, beat people off the pitch, develop so many new balls, be it the carom ball, the knuckle ball, whatever you can call it, bowl leg spin. I remember in an Asia Cup, he was fascinated and wanted to bowl like Sunil Narayan. So, in an international game, he was bowling in the action of Sunil Narayan. He has done it all. His father, who has been his biggest supporter in his house, it's all about positivity. Whenever he does well, I know his mom is someone who's always echoed the positivity of say, you can do this, and I want you to do this, pushing him to greater heights. It's a household which lives, breathes, eats cricket. And generally in the family, you and I have both played the sport. You'll probably have a dad who speaks cricket, or you'll have at times a brother. But in his house, I promise you, his dad speaks cricket. I've seen him speak to his mom and say, Mom, I didn't get the dusra well today, that's why that guy hit me for a six. He has those kind of conversations with his mom, I promise you. I've seen it. And that's how fanatic they are in the house. And for them, as much as it is for Ashwin and the rest of the cricketing world, this was a big moment for them. And I think they'll be sitting there. I know they came to the Hyderabad test, but they couldn't, they were waiting for that 500 wicket, but it didn't happen there. Vizag test, his wife and his kids had come. It didn't happen there. I guess God was just waiting for the right moment, and it happened in Rajkot. And they must have all watched it on TV. And you couldn't feel more happy for the man who absolutely enjoys playing the sport and does a lot, affiliated with the sport as well. So, well done, Ashwin. You're one of a kind, easily one of the greatest cricketers to have come from India, and definitely the greatest cricketer that's played from my state, Tamil Nadu, without a shadow of doubt. Now, it's time, and I enjoyed this part the most about Cricbuzz Chatter, which is put one Mr. Michael Vaughan in the hotspot. Now, generally, when I go to hotspot, I have a question. And I do have a question for you. And if I have to speak about this person, A, because he's from my state, it could be too biased, very eloquent, and you'd probably get annoyed with me. But I know you already put him along the echelons of Shane Warne and Muralidharan. Now, between Nathan Lyon and R. Ashwin, where do you pin these two? How do you see him against the rest of the world?
That's a cruel question. Nathan Lyons, another great. Wonderful to see an off spinner that just doesn't have much mystery. He just has flight and guile and consistency and that competitive edge. He doesn't have the Karoon balls. He has a good kind of slider at times, but he's just a consistent off spinner. If you ask me to choose one of the two, I would choose Ashwin because I just think he's got a few more subtle variations, and obviously he offers a few more runs with the batting hand. So because of Ashwin's batting, I would just choose Ashwin over Nathan Lyon. I would probably consider if it was played in Australia, I may go with Nathan Lyon because he seems to get that overspin and that bounce. But pretty much everywhere else in the world, I think I'd be having Ashwin over Nathan Lyon. But it's a nice conversation to have, and it's a nice decision to make because the two world-class performers. But if you had to push me, I think I would just go with Ashwin.
I must say that was very kind of Nathan Lyon. I just saw it on social media where he sent a congratulatory message. He's just picked up his 500th wicket in December, and February Ashwin has just followed him through. It's been a bit of a cat and mouse game between the both. They keep literally going at each other's landmarks one after the other. So it's been the cricketing world. I believe has been blessed to have two of the greatest off spinners apart from Muralidharan to have been playing in the same era and just competing consistently over a period of time. Now it's time to move into what we call the fast forward. In a way, this question has been asked to you before, but I'll repeat it because I always believe you're clever enough to give me a different answer and one that's very, very interesting. England on course to go to 445. There's no doubting that at this point of time. What can India do? If you were the Indian captain, what could you have done differently to stop them from getting there quickly at the same rate, literally?
You start with Bumrah against Joe Root first thing in the morning, and you start with Ashwin, and I go over the wicket to Ben Duckett straight away. And I'm going to say to Ben Duckett, we're going to pitch the ball a yard outside of leg stump, even more so into the rough. We know that you're going to sweep the ball. What that does is it almost quartered the ground out the game. So it's hard to reverse sweep fine from outside of leg stump. You can still play the switch it, but you can have a fielder there. Then you have all the fielders square the wicket on the onside for his sweep. Short fine. Probably have your backwards square 10 yards in off the boundary for the top edge. You'd have another one just in front of the square for that hard sweep that could go head high. And I'd be saying to Ben Duckett, go on then, go and try and sweep first thing in the morning outside of leg stump into the footholes. And Ashwin's going to be that bowler. You know he's consistently going to land it in there. And with Bumrah at the other end, that's what I would be doing. I just think Rohit's just got to just think out the box a little bit. I mean, if you play conventionally against the Baz bowlers, I think they like that. And particularly on a flat wicket, that the reverse swing's not quite what it was in the second test match. It may be more tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see. But there wasn't a great deal of reverse swing. And if it's not reverse swinging, sometimes you've just got to throw it outside of the eye line. To someone like Ben Duckett, he doesn't leave the ball. So it might be an over or two where you just bowl wide of off stump and get him fetching the ball. And maybe the outside edge will be found, because if India don't win that first session, they allow England to get off in the fashion that we saw in the final session today. That 238 run lead will get chipped away quickly, and it might even be gone by tea time. So India have to have the mindset of thinking outside the box, and particularly in that first hour, they've got to get their combinations and their strategy absolutely spot on.
Very true. And every time at the start of the day, there is something for the bowler there. It's slightly tacky. The residual moisture that seems to remain from the night seems to get on early on in the day. You have that in the first hour. We've seen both days. The first hour produced a few wickets. So I'm hoping that India use the conditions at that point of time. It's pretty cloudy. It's pretty chill in the day at the start, but then it starts getting really warmer. And as Michael absolutely and perfectly said, it's only going to get tougher for India as the day rolls on if they don't pick up a wicket. They need a wicket or two, but definitely Ben Duckett at the start, because what we have seen is Ben Duckett is the one who plays at a great tempo. The rest, to some extent, you can control with fields, and probably they don't go after the bowling as much as Ben Duckett and Zach Crawley does. So to pick him up early would be important. Try and make him leave balls. At least try and get him into the mindset of leaving balls. Throw it further outside the off stump. Throw it outside the leg stump. Let him fetch. Don't try to keep bowling into him and making it easy. Bumrah Root is always a good matchup. And once Bairstow comes, he will be looking for runs, because he's obviously short on runs. And then from there on, it rolls. For the moment, India will need Ben Duckett really early. And as I keep doing this show and have someone as sarcastic and as funny as Michael Vaughan, I keep making him wear this English captain cap literally every time, and he keeps giving me serious answers. But if you did meet Michael Vaughan outside, you'll realize he's a funny man, extremely sarcastic sense of humor, and for some strange reason, I'm not able to get that out. So, Michael, if I had to pass on some interesting message to Baz bowlers tomorrow, what have you got for them?
Just keep bazzing it. Just keep balling it. I mean, apart from Joe Root, I just want Joe Root to be Joe Root. Joe Root's record against spin over the course of the previous 3 years to Baz ball, he was averaging 80 odd, and in the Baz ball era, he's averaging 30 odd against spin, and he gets out every 42 balls, where he was 102 balls the previous 3 years. So I just need Joe to be Joe, and the rest of them, rev them up. Rev them up, get them out there, sweeping, reverse sweeping, switch hitting, whatever they need to do. Just get out there and cause a bit of chaos, because if you can have that gluing Joe Root in the middle and a few chaotic innings around him, England certainly can bat the day out and get a good lead by tomorrow night.
Perfect, Michael. We'll pass on the messages. I'm happy you haven't passed any sly comments on my shirt this time around, and I think
Very
it's better
nice.
I'm going to end the show on this note, hoping to wear a better shirt, which is going to catch your eye tomorrow. But for now, it's been really good chatting to you. See you guys tomorrow, day 3, same time. We will be back with something as exciting as today. Thank you. Take care. Good night.